All right, so Nissan, right. Lately, it seems like they've been hit with one bit of bad news after another.
Yeah, it's been a rough patch for them, no doubt.
Declining sales, their debt rating getting close to junk status, that whole thing with the Honda merger falling apart, and then some pretty major cutbacks, job cuts, plant closures.
It definitely paints a picture of a company facing some serious headwinds.
But here's where it gets interesting,
Mm.
you know? It seems like Nissan isn't just sitting back and taking it. They're actually making some bold moves that suggest they're gearing up for a serious comeback.
That's what's really interesting to me. Looking at all these challenges was fascinating, is that strategic shift that Nissan seems to be making.
Exactly.
When a company's under that much pressure, you'd expect them to maybe play it safe, right? Scale back a bit.
Right.
But everything we've been seeing points to Nissan taking a much more aggressive approach,
Yep.
trying to change their trajectory completely.
And that is exactly what we're diving deep into today. We've been digging through all the recent announcements and reports, and honestly, Nissan's plans for a revival are pretty ambitious. We're talking about a major push to speed up vehicle development, a renewed focus on what they're calling iconic models.
Right.
And the big one, the complete reimagining of a name you've definitely heard before, the Nissan Leaf.
That's right.
We've got a lot to cover, and by the time we're done, you'll have a really solid understanding of what Nissan is trying to achieve,
Okay.
what their upcoming vehicles might actually look like, and what all this means for the automotive industry as a whole.
Yeah, I think this raises an important question right off the bat.
Wow.
How does a company successfully turn things around when they're facing so many challenges? It's not just about releasing a few new cars, it's about fundamentally reassessing their internal processes and strategic priorities.
Right.
And it seems like Nissan is tackling this head on, starting with a leadership change and a serious reevaluation of their development timelines.
Exactly. So taking over as CEO on April 1st is Ivan Espinosa. And he's been pretty vocal about his main goal.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to drastically reduce the time it takes Nissan to bring a new vehicle from concept to showroom.
Wow.
Right now, the average timeline is something like 55 months.
That's a long time.
It is. And Espinosa's target is to get that down to 37 months for the first model in a new family of vehicles, and then an even faster 30 months for any subsequent models.
That's cutting it almost in half.
Yeah, it's a significant reduction, and I think it speaks to the need for some major changes in their internal processes.
Absolutely. When you think about it, that kind of reduction in development time is crucial in an industry as fast-paced as automotive, especially with the shift to electric vehicles. You need to be able to adapt to changing consumer demands and incorporate the latest technology quickly. If you can't, you're falling behind.
Yeah, for sure. So along with this push for speed, Espinosa has also highlighted another key area of focus, developing 5 or 6 what he calls iconic models that he believes will really resonate with customers in different markets. He specifically mentioned the Patrol, the Z, and of course the Leaf. Makes sense. So it seems like the strategy here is to create vehicles that people have a strong emotional connection to and that benefit from that established brand recognition.
Yeah, and when he says iconic, what do you think he means? Models with a long history, vehicles that represent a certain image, or maybe those that have been really successful in the past.
That's a great question. I think it's probably a combination of all those things. For Nissan models like the Patrol and the Z have been around for a long time. They have a dedicated fan base, and they represent specific aspects of the brand's heritage. Ruggedness for the Patrol performance and style for the Z.
Right.
Now, the original Leaf maybe isn't iconic in the same way,
Yeah.
but it was a pioneer in the EV space and is closely associated with Nissan's early commitment to electric vehicles. So the challenge for them will be leveraging that existing recognition and emotional connection in a way that appeals to today's consumers and fits with their overall electrification strategy.
Bye.
I see what you mean. And, given their financial situation, it's interesting that Espinosa isn't ruling out strategic partnerships.
Right.
He's said publicly that he's open to exploring collaborations. And it's hard not to think back to those merger talks with Honda that ultimately fell apart in February.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole situation
Yeah.
really highlights just how competitive the environment is for Nissan right now.
Yeah.
And it suggests that they might need some outside help to achieve these ambitious goals.
Totally. And it makes you wonder what other partnerships they might be considering moving forward.
Right.
Okay, but let's move on to what I think is the most surprising and maybe the most important piece of news here. The Nissan Leaf is making a comeback.
Oh, wow.
But for those of you who remember the earlier versions, this might come as a shock. It's not going to be the hatchback you're used to. The Leaf is being completely reimagined as a crossover SUV.
You're kidding.
Nope. So, we've been talking about bold moves and reevaluating their approach, right? Well, this
Yeah.
is a perfect example.
They're taking a vehicle that was a leader in the EV market and completely transforming it.
I mean, the original Leaf was a game changer in a lot of ways. It played a huge role in introducing EVs to a wider audience. But as the market evolved and consumer preferences changed its design and technology arguably didn't keep up.
Yeah, and some of the reports we looked at were pretty blunt about it. They described the earlier Leaf as frumpy looking with an outdated appearance,
Ouch.
and that was definitely a factor in the rumors that it might be discontinued. So this move to a crossover SUV is clearly a deliberate attempt to shed that image and tap into the huge demand for SUVs.
Makes sense. It's not just about aesthetics either. It's about giving consumers what they want in a vehicle.
And it's not just the body style that's getting a major upgrade. The new Leaf is going to have an NACS port,
The Tesla charging port.
the one and only. That means it'll be able to use Tesla superchargers without an adapter.
That's a huge deal.
It is, and Nissan has made it clear that this will be the first EV in their lineup to come standard with an NACS port. This isn't just about convenience either. It shows that Nissan is serious about competing in the EV market. They know that charging infrastructure is a big deal for consumers, and they're making a statement by adopting the most widely available fast-charging network in North America.
I mean, this directly addresses one of the biggest criticisms of the original Leaf. The CHAdeMO port was a major drawback.
Yeah, it's outdated for sure.
And the limited availability of CHAdeMO chargers compared to other standards was a real pain for Leaf owners.
So this is like finally speaking the same language as the majority of fast-charging stations out there.
Right.
Now, this new Leaf will be the third generation of the model, and it's expected to hit the market in North America in 2026. We also learned that it'll be built on the same platform as the Aria EV, the CMF EV platform.
That's a smart move. Sharing a platform means they can use a lot of the same components, which reduces costs and speeds up development.
Exactly. And that platform is designed specifically for EVs, so it allows for optimal battery placement, weight distribution, and the possibility of using advanced battery technology.
Yeah.
Speaking of batteries, the reports are promising significant range improvements over the current model. To give you an idea, the current Leaf SV Plus gets about 212 miles on a single charge.
So hopefully significant means a lot more than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have to step it up to compete with other EVs in this segment.
Right.
We also got a few hints about the design. Apparently, it'll have 19-inch alloy wheels and a panoramic moonroof, which suggests a more modern look.
Nice.
And Inside EVs describe the overall shape as egg-shaped, which they pointed out is pretty typical for EVs these days. And they estimated that it'll be about 3/4 the size of a Tesla Model Y.
Okay, so not as big as a Model Y, but still a decent size.
Right. It'll be interesting to see the final dimensions, but it sounds like it'll be a good fit for the popular compact SUV segment.
Yeah, for sure.
We should be getting more details about the new Leaf by the middle of the year, so stay tuned. But Nissan's plans don't stop there. They're also refreshing their entire lineup. We're going to see updated versions of the Rogue SUV with both gas and plug-in hybrid options, and they're also giving the Pathfinder SUV and the Sentra sedan a makeover.
So they're not abandoning their traditional gas-powered models just yet.
Not at all. They're still investing in those while also pushing forward with EVs. And over at Infiniti, their luxury brand, they're refreshing the QX60 three-row SUV and adding a new sport package for the QX80 SUV.
Sounds like they're trying to keep their premium models competitive.
Definitely. But the real excitement is around their future EV plans. They've announced a new adventure-themed SUV that's scheduled to start production in Mississippi in late fiscal year 2027.
Adventure-themed, so like a Rivian or a Jeep.
Exactly, something more rugged and off-road capable.
Yep.
That's a big shift for them, and it shows they're aiming for a piece of that growing market for electric SUVs.
That's interesting because it seems like they're going after a whole new type of EV buyer with this one, people who want a more capable vehicle for outdoor activities.
And then in fiscal year 2028, Infiniti is planning to release a luxury SUV inspired by their Vision QX concept car. So we're getting a glimpse into their future design language for premium EVs.
I see.
And just to recap, Nissan is still committed to electrifying half of their entire lineup, which includes a target of 7 EVs, specifically for the U.S. and Canada.
Wow.
And they've also said that their future U.S. batteries will be made domestically through a partnership with SK-1. So they're really strengthening their supply chain and potentially taking advantage of local incentives.
That's a big step in the right direction.
Okay, and lastly, let's touch on their plans for the European market. They're bringing back the Micra, which they stopped selling in the UK back in 2010, and reintroducing it as a fully electric car later this year. Yeah. And they're also planning to release an electric version of the Juke compact SUV in fiscal year 2026. So they've got a pretty comprehensive electrification strategy tailored to different regions.
Yeah, it seems like they're covering all their bases.
So to sum it all up for you, we're seeing a company that's facing some real challenges. But their response is anything but passive. They're making big changes, accelerating their development timelines, focusing on creating truly iconic models, and completely reinventing the Leaf as a modern crossover SUV with the latest charging technology.
And all of this could have a huge impact on the auto industry. Nissan was an early leader in EVs, and this renewed focus, especially with the adoption of the NACS standard and their expansion into new segments like adventure-themed SUVs, could make them a major player in the EV market.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's something to think about. What does it mean that a major automaker like Nissan is adapting so significantly to the EV revolution and even embracing charging standards that were once considered the domain of a single company? What does this tell us about the future of EVs and the growing importance of convenience for consumers?
It definitely suggests that the EV market is maturing, and practical considerations like charging infrastructure are becoming essential for mass adoption.
For sure.
And the fact that automakers are willing to embrace common standards is a good thing. It'll ultimately benefit consumers and help accelerate the transition to EVs.
Couldn't agree more. And hey, if you found this deep dive insightful and you want to stay up to date on all things automotive, be sure to like this and subscribe to the channel.
We'll see you in the next one.
See you then.